Hey guys, how's it going? So today I'm planting this miniature peach tree in this container. I posted a picture of this tree because it's so pretty right now. I mean, look at these blooms, huge, bright pink. I absolutely love it. Anyway, I posted a picture on Instagram and Facebook and you guys had a ton of questions about it. So I thought it would make for a fun video. I didn't even plan on doing a video about it, but it's called a pixie miniature peach and it tops out at about 6 feet tall, 6 feet wide. So it's a really great option for those of you who do not have a ton of space to garden, or if you're wanting to plant in containers. Because it stays on the smaller side, it'll be happier in a container for a lot longer. Also, it's a zone 6 through 9 and I garden in a zone 5, so it's not winter hardy enough to make it through our winters. So putting it in a container will allow me to either take it into the greenhouse or move it to somewhere protected where it stays a little bit warmer so that I don't risk losing it. And also, because it is a genetic dwarf, typically they have a more dense, compact habit, like their foliage is much more dense, so they're much more attractive, which I think will make it really pretty in a pot. However, I do have to disclaimer that this is the first time I've personally grown this variety of peach. In fact, this is the very first fruit tree, technically, that we are bringing onto this property. And I'm hoping that one day, that was one of the questions, whether or not we're going to have an orchard here. We may. I would love to have more peach trees and apples and, you know, all kinds of stuff. But I think this is a really good start. We're going to start small. So this pot right here is not very much bigger than the current pot size. It's a little bit deeper, just a tiny bit wider. And that's kind of perfect because when you're potting up, you don't want to go way too big because somehow that can tend to shock the plant. So the very first thing I did was I ran some 1/4-inch drip tubing. So it's just this stuff. Our garden center doesn't carry it here in town, but a lot of garden centers will carry irrigation supplies like this. But I ran a piece of it up through the drain hole. I'm not ready to attach it yet to my irrigation system because I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to set it, but I am prepared so that later on I don't have to run a piece of the drip tubing over the side of the container. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is put a little layer of soil in the bottom of the container. Just because I know that this is a lot shorter, I'll probably put a couple inches in there. You do want to make sure though that you leave enough room so you have a good lip to water. Usually like an inch is sufficient. And I'm just using regular, this is organic potting soil. You don't want to use just garden soil that you dig up in your own yard, and that goes for all containers because that holds on to too much moisture. This will help keep the plant happier. So now we're going to take this plant out of the pot and see what the root system looks like. And I might have to kind of get up a little bit for this. It's kind of heavy. Oh my goodness. Whew. That looks like a very healthy root system. See that right there? I'm going to just rough it up just slightly. You don't have to do a whole bunch to the root system. Okay, so I'm going to lower it down in the pot. Oh, you know what? I need a little bit more potting soil. That was deeper than I thought. So now I need to pack potting soil in around this whole root ball, and you want to make sure it's packed really tightly so there's no air around it. Keep your plant happier. All right, so now I'm going to add a little bit of fertilizer, just a few teaspoons. I'm just going to sprinkle around the outside, and then I'm going to work it in with my fingers. And you know, the less amount of stress you can cause to your plant, like the more you have them properly fed so that they're not fighting for nutrients, the easier it is for them to combat any kind of fungal or any kind of diseases, and then they'll fruit better as well. And that was tree tone, by the way. So now you're essentially done. The plant is potted up in the container. We've got it fertilized. It's got good fresh soil. I'm going to place it in a spot that gets full sun, and then I have the ability to hook it into my irrigation system if I want to. In fact, that's the next thing I'm going to work on. I already put a 3-way coupler on the top of this piece of tubing, and I'm just going to go ahead and place my irrigation. I'm going to do 3 half-gallon per hour emitters, kind of placed in thirds around this plant because I can't leave this bare soil. I've got some pretty things that I thought would be fun to kind of tuck in around the base to make it a little bit more fancy and colorful. So let me get this done. I just need to cut 3 pieces of tubing, and then I've got my half-gallon per hour emitters right here. It's just a lot easier to get this set up at this stage when there's no plants in here, as opposed to waiting until it's all planted. Then I've got these stakes right here that I'm going to slide each piece of tubing through before I put my emitter on, and that will allow me to stake them in right exactly where I want each one of them to be. And then I can trim these pieces of tubing to size because I did cut them kind of long. And also the pointy side is the one that gets pushed into the tubing. All right, so for the plants I'm putting around the base, I've just got a mixture of stuff I kind of had left over from other projects. I've got a gold child ivy that I'm going to plant right front and center as kind of a nice trailer, right out the front, nice foliage. Then I've got this really cute viola called Sorbet Icy Blue. I think I'll put that one on this side here. I really have to kind of plant these around the perimeter because the root ball is right in the center and it's a pretty tight one. I can't really dig into that. Then I think I'm going to actually work in a couple of lettuce plants in here. I think this is such a pretty foliage, and it will also be a nice contrast because a peach will have green leaves and this will bring a nice red accent to it. Then this viola is called Etain, E-T-A-I-N, really pretty bicolor viola. And these violas are hardy. Yeah, to -30. They're a zone 4. They're essentially perennials in a lot of different areas, so I can pop these out and put them in my landscape. Oh, I hope I have enough plants. Then I've got a creeping Charlie, which if you guys have ever grown this, you know it wants to take over. So it's really awesome in pots. That way you don't have to deal with it taking over your flower beds. It's a really beautiful trailer. My lettuce right here. A couple handfuls of more soil. Another viola, one more creeping Charlie, and then I'm gonna go see if I can scrounge up another lettuce plant in the greenhouse. Hold on. That's super pretty. All right, so now it's all planted. I need to water it so I can give the pot a good once over and get all the soil cleaned off. But I want to talk a little bit more about the peach because it really does have a lot of good things about it. Like, it's self-fruitful. If you see that on a tag, that means that you don't have to have another peach variety nearby in order to pollinate it so you get fruit. It'll do its own thing and still bear fruit even if it's the only one you have in your yard. Of course, you will get better yields if you do have more peach trees, but it's not necessary, which is amazing. And they bear like early to mid-season, usually like the end of June, beginning of a July kind of time frame. And I'm gonna have to report back on the flavor. I did see a couple comments asking what the flavor was like. I don't know yet because, like I said, this is the first time I've grown it. And supposedly they have very large fruit that has really firm flesh that's yellow, and they're freestone, which means when you cut into the peach, the flesh doesn't cling to the pit, so they're very easy to cut up and eat. And then they have kind of a reddish yellow skin. And I'm really hopeful that it's gonna bear really well just based on how well it's blooming right now, even though this is the first year that I actually have it planted here. You know, we got this down at the garden center that my parents have, and we typically never bring in any fruit trees that are really young. I don't know how many years old this one is, but usually we bring in fruit trees only 7-gallon size and larger. That way you do get some fruit the first year. And there's something about that, something very satisfying to plant something and actually reap something that first year. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was spraying your fruit trees. So there's a couple of different things to know. The best way to combat insects and diseases on your fruit trees is to spray preventatively. So we did a video earlier on this season where I did a dormant spray on my parents' fruit trees. We will link that video down below because it talks a little bit more about that, shows what I used. And if you do that, it's very easy. You do it when the tree's asleep, and that will prevent so many things from happening in season because it smothers and kills those things before they have a chance to take hold. But there is something that you can spray in season to help with any kind of problems. And we deal with a fungus called peach leaf curl here in our area. It's pretty prevalent. And it's where the leaves start to kind of twist and get malformed, and you lose those leaves in the season. And it's just, it can really affect the yields on your plant. So I did bring out this spray. I'm not spraying it today, but this is a pyrethrin and sulfur-based spray. It's for organic gardening, which I've done everything. It's organic soil, organic fertilizer, and that's typically how I treat everything in my garden. But this is specifically for fruit and nut trees, and it controls, I mean, it says it right there, fungal diseases and insects, and it's something that you can do in season if you're dealing with something like that. And it is recommended to spray it early on in the season before you see any diseases happen. You don't have to do that, but you can spray it at 7 to 10 day intervals just to keep on top of anything that you may have going on. Now, I'm gonna wait on this one. I'm not gonna spray it today. I typically don't like to spray if I don't have to. So I'm just gonna hope that this one does really well. And if you, like I said, if you try to keep stress levels low, keep them well watered and keep them fertilized, typically you don't have as big of a problem. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, kind of maybe learning about a new type of tree that maybe you didn't know about before. It's just a really fun thing to try out. I'm really excited to see what happens. So we will be updating you later on. Hopefully I have some big peaches to show you later on this season. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.